Hello, welcome back to ManifestHER. This week we're talking about parenting and all the things that we've learned through being a parent and just like there's a lot of times in life when it's so hard to be a parent and you feel so alone and just talking about like what we've been through, what we've learned and how we ended up with good relationships with our kids and growing through that. So, hello. Make sure you share and subscribe, like all the things. Hi,
Hey
Nikki. How's it
girl, hey! Good. We've had a lot of rain out here. I'm ready for some sunshine.
Oh, it's been snowing. It was so nice. Both of us. We were like, it's so beautiful. And now it's
Right?
not beautiful anymore.
Now it's all crappy.
Yeah. Oh, freaking weather. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I can't believe it's already March. Like, it's almost spring. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I'm so
Oh, now
excited.
that you say that, March comes
You're
in
coming.
like a lion, out like a lamb. That means
yeah.
good weather's coming.
Woo, woo. I'm so excited. And it means you're coming to visit soon.
Yes,
I'm
March 19th.
So excited. It's coming up. I can't wait. We got to figure out what we want to do. We got to do something fun.
Yeah, so it'll be a year because I came here March 9th. So yeah,
Wow.
on the 9th, it'll be a year since
That's
I came out
crazy.
here, which is pretty exciting.
I hate that. Oh,
You're
that
like,
is
no.
exciting. I'm excited for you to come visit, though. We'll have to find something fun. I'll have to look up and see if there's anything fun going on that week that we could go do.
I hope the weather isn't like crappy. I hope it holds up.
But also, even if we just like hang out at your house, get dinner and crumble like we used to, and just do tarot and hang out, I feel like that sounds. We should do that.
Yeah,
and then maybe
that's a
something
vibe.
fun. Yeah,
that's a vibe.
That'll
I'm
be
into
good.
that. I haven't had crumble.
I haven't had it in a long time.
Yeah, so that's definitely.
You don't? Do you have it out there?
I think we do, but I haven't seen them. I'd have to DoorDash it, and I was trying to do it for Jensen's birthday. He wanted these peach Twizzlers that are hard to find. Girl, they're so hard to find. I don't know why them doggone. But he saw them one day at the grocery store, like on a super discount. So I guess they were getting rid of them, and he's like, "Oh my god, these are the greatest." And I don't know if they're discontinuing the doggone Twizzlers or what, but I ended up having the DoorDash Twizzlers.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yes, girl. They was like $3. I ended up paying like $20 to get them doggone. By the time you pay the fees.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. It's so crazy that you don't have a car. Like, it's cool that you live somewhere where you don't need one, but like for little things like that, I would be frustrated.
Yeah.
But it's cool
You're
though.
like,
I love that you walk everywhere.
Yeah. We're thinking about getting one of those little like sneaker looking cars that are super tiny.
Yeah? I'm so scared to drive in one of those.
I know, because if you crash.
Yeah. I feel like you're just like,
girl, he's the one that's into it. He's like, it's so cute. I'm like, I get it, but babe, we can't get in no wrecks. Like, none.
Because in a bigger car, like whether it's the front or the back, or most of the sides, like if it's like directly on your door, it's not like you have room. But in one of those, it doesn't matter where it's smashing you.
Girl,
it scares me. I couldn't have one of those.
Like a tin can.
Yeah, and it's small enough to crunch just like a tin can. No way. I would like to.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I think I would like to go for a ride in yours. That would be great.
Yeah.
Maybe a little ride around the block. I would want to have.
Well, I wanted a Vespa, so I think that's why he's like, Vespa. I'm like,
is it though? At least you fly from a Vespa. You have a helmet, but in that car you get trapped. You smash. I feel like it's worse.
Right? Legs get all trapped.
Yeah.
Can't get out.
That sounds like danger. I don't know.
Yes.
But Vespas don't go that fast. They're like not as dangerous as motorcycles, right? I mean,
you're not taking them as far and stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to like zip so we don't have to walk.
Yeah. You know? Like to go somewhere a little bit further.
Whip Nene Vespa. Yeah. You know, head down to the quarter, not like on the highway or nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's true. Like even with the car, same thing. If you're just using it to go close and not using it as like a it's the same either way.
Yeah.
It would be
He's
nice to
like,
have
we gotta
something
get
smaller.
more things. I'm like, can we though? That thing don't have a trunk. Like, what are you putting in that?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
So
know.
we'll see. He want one. We're gonna see what we're gonna do this year. We might
Yeah.
get a little zip
Go look
zip.
at them, do a test drive. You'll decide once you
Yeah.
try them out.
That way I'm
You
not
should
DoorDash
test drive both.
person.
Test drive a Vespa and test drive that, and it'll be like, which one feels like a vibe? Which one makes you feel more like you're like zipping around town and all cute?
Yeah.
Like at least in the car, you could like have conversations while you're driving and like talk about the
True.
scenery. Like I'm sure there's
That's
benefits to
true.
both. You just got to drive them both and see which makes you feel like excited.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah,
Try them both. The two
yeah,
things.
that'll be
I'm with it.
good.
I'll do that. And then
Cool.
hurricane season's getting ready to come up.
Oh my
So
gosh, I forgot you have hurricane season there, Nikki. At least you're in the United States. There's a better chance of
right?
coming back from it. At least you can like get away, come to Utah.
Yeah.
Don't get trapped there with no power for days and days. It's horrible.
Yes.
But
Yes.
they're
Maybe
usually I know
sometime.
like Hurricane
Go ahead, go ahead.
Katrina was there, so obviously they get really bad. But for the most part, they're not terrible there, right?
Hurricane Ida, no, not usually. They don't get really Katrina and Ida. I don't know which one was last. I think Ida might have been the last
Yeah,
one,
I
but
think it was.
Katrina was the worst,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't usually
Yeah,
happen. So, Lord will,
that's
we just
good.
pray. We pray. We do some spells. I got a book of 1,001 spells.
Ooh,
Yeah. So
sounds
I've been going
nice.
through trying to tab all the things. That's a lot of those spells.
That's a lot.
So I'm like,
That's
ooh,
a
that looks
lot.
cool, and that and that. So I'm like putting a million tabs in my book.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how
I'm
has your
excited.
week been? Have you been doing fun things? Did you do anything this weekend?
Yeah, pretty good. Our neighbor really takes care of us. She's always bringing us stuff. So yesterday she went to like the local bakery and brought us these baked goodies.
She's
She's the
adorable.
best. Girl, I love her so much. So tonight
Mm-hmm.
I'm cooking and I'm like, hey, you want some dinner? So I'm gonna take her a plate. I'm making a
Oh.
juicy prime rib. Ooh, I can smell it as we
Mmm.
speak.
That sounds good. Fly me out
Yes,
there. That sounds amazing.
yes.
I
Prime
love that.
rib, potatoes, and green beans for tonight. And I'm
Mm.
gonna take her a plate
I'm
because she's.
jealous. It's like my dream to just live next door to you and be like, let's have dinner together. That you're
I
living my
know, like
dream.
all the time, just see
Yeah.
you. She's like knocking. So when it's nicer, it's been warm, just like gray. So I close just the shutters and I'll leave my
Mm-hmm.
door open. It's real southern and
Yeah,
cool.
it
And
is.
yeah, so she
That's
started doing it
cute.
on her side. She's like, oh, I didn't even think
Oh,
about that. Yeah.
I
But she'll
love
just
that.
come up and like knock on the shutters. What you
Oh,
doing?
that's such a vibe. I'm so jealous. Takes a
Yeah.
lot to get me jealous. That girl's got me jealous. I want my best friend back.
I know. That's why we got to make all the money so we can just live next
Yes.
to each other.
Yes.
All the
That'd be
money come
amazing.
to us. We're working on it. We're
Yes.
working on it.
We're attracting all the things. That's good. Did you
Yes.
finish?
How about you?
Well, I had surgery last week. That's why I look kind of a mess because the thought of taking a shower when I'm in this much pain was just not happening. And putting on makeup was also not happening. So, like, you're lucky I put on a shirt. I was wearing I have this, like, big blanket hoodie type thing. And I was like, I should just wear this. It's all fluffy and giant. And I'm like, I don't want to take it off. And I was like, I'll put on the shirt. Fine. So, you're lucky that I changed my shirt. Okay,
I
that's what I'm
love it.
doing. But yeah, so I've just been in a ton of pain. I slept most of the weekend. I've been very grumpy, very snappy at my kids. I've had to apologize like 500 times a day. So like,
Oh.
I'm really sorry I'm grumpy, but it's just the pain. Like I'm just in excruciating pain right now. It's not horrible, but yesterday I cried so many times. I literally walked upstairs. My brother's standing in the kitchen. I go up there to grab something, and I open the door, and I look at him, and I just start sobbing. I'm like, I hate my life. And he's like, you do? I'm like, no, I'm just miserable, and I haven't eaten since Thursday because I can't eat anything still because it's been so bad. So I literally had, that's why I'm trying to hurry and chug this juice because I've had no food since Thursday. I've had like mashed potatoes and applesauce And that anything else, like even the things that they say you can slowly eat, I can't do it. It's too bad.
Mm.
Yesterday, I was devastated. I went to Zupa's and I hadn't eaten since Thursday, so it's been like multiple days. And I'm like, I'm gonna get a soup from Zupa's. I'm gonna get the cauliflower
Yeah.
one because there's no chunks. It's just
Oh
soup. I'm like,
yeah.
I'll be
Yeah.
able to do it. I was so excited about this soup. Okay, I'm like
Yes.
stoked. So
Mm-hmm.
I go there and the girls go in to pick it up for me, so I don't have to go in. And it like took 25 minutes for them to be ready after when they said it would be ready. So we're just sitting
Oh,
there forever. I was so irritated. But then I get
yeah.
home and I'm like so excited for my soup. I start eating it, even though I let it cool a lot. Even any warmth, it was going down the socket of my tooth and burning me, and I couldn't eat it. And I was like,
Oh.
I can't eat my soup, so I'm sobbing again. But I go to my brother and I'm like crying about it, and I'm like, I just am so miserable and I haven't eaten and I'm hungry and I'm in so much pain. And he's like, do you need a hug? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I've just been miserable. And it's so weird because so I got wisdom teeth removed on both sides. This one was my wisdom tooth and the molar right next to it. So it's two in a row. So it's like a huge issue over here.
Yeah.
And the wisdom tooth on this side, I cannot feel it like at all. I kept forgetting that I had this side done. When I eat, I have to make sure to
That's good.
remember to, because yeah, I think this side is normal. This side is like what is supposed to be feeling like. This
Yeah.
side is making me want to die. So I'm just like,
Why
it's
did
been
that happen?
horrible. It's just, I don't know. I think it's just because I had so much work in one place, and because I'm older, the older you are when you have them removed, the worse. And because
Mm.
it was, so the tooth, like if it was supposed to grow this way, like they're always like a little impacted. Mine was like this, pushing
Mm.
completely into the other one, which is why I had to have it removed. My other tooth had a hole in it from this one, like pushing into it. And that is like the hardest one. So they had to like cut out bone on this side and like, so it was like a big deal on this side of my mouth. And this one I think was just easy. It was like
Ooh.
more like just a little impacted. So I think that's the difference. But the
Ooh.
reason I got so I have nerve damage, and that's, I've been reading about it, and he warned me that could happen before. It wasn't like they messed up. But when you're older, the root has had a chance to grow like deeper in there, and so it's like closer to the nerve, so it's more likely that you're gonna get nerve damage. I'm just hoping it's not
Mm.
permanent and I'll get feeling back. But so that's been my week. I've just been a mess.
So much fun.
Yeah, I've done nothing. In fact, I have not posted our podcast episode today. I'm gonna post it today still, so it's still on the same day, but it's not up. I haven't even started editing it. I haven't been able to. So it's not going to be very edited. It's going to be like snipped to.
Raw.
Yeah. I'm not putting in much because I just can't. Not this week.
Raw
So
footage.
yes, it's exactly what it's going to be. So
That's all
yeah,
good.
I'm just. But today is better than yesterday. I think I'm finally starting to feel better. I hope.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, good. Yeah, I had mine done way back in my 20s. My tooth was impacted. I don't remember how much it was sideways. I had all mine removed, and it wasn't that bad, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's not usually. I had
But I
to.
was younger, and
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
was
it's
so
not.
long ago. It was
I had to.
like bleeding. I don't really remember it being that bad at all, honestly.
For
It
most
was
people,
so
it's
long
not.
ago.
I think
Yeah,
like the way that it feels on this side is what's normal, and
yeah.
this side is not even comparable. Like this is the worst pain I've had. Like the only pain that I would compare it to is when I had a kidney infection, worst pain of my life, and when I gave birth to my kids.
Ooh,
That's the.
girl.
Other than that, this is the worst pain I've ever had in my life.
Ooh,
So
girl,
I don't know. Yeah,
you're a
it's been
trooper.
awful. But I've
Oh,
been. Have you?
you still
Did
show
you
up
watch all
today.
of? Yeah, I pushed myself because I knew your energy. I was like, I am. I was in a mood. You know, you saw when I first got on. You could feel it. I was in a mood. I was like, this is not going well. But I knew I would feel better once I talked to you, and I'm glad I did. But did you watch all of the Great Leap program? Are you caught up on everything?
No, because of what we were talking about that I was going through. But no,
Mhm.
I still got 4 and 5. Hopefully, I'll still have access to it. I know they like to cut off access.
No, she
So
just said they're gonna give longer on this one than they usually
oh,
do
good,
because everyone's been so
good,
active.
good.
I don't know if they set a date, so I would still watch it as soon as you can. But
Yeah.
and then she did. You had to do some things to unlock a bonus call. Did you do that?
I
Okay,
haven't
so
done nothing honestly since 3. Yeah,
okay, so
I was
I'll
super active, and then whoop, not
so
from
let me
there.
know when you get to the point where it would be the bonus call because you won't have that.
Cool.
But it was really good. But today I was watching the bonus call. It was a 2 hour call, and I just was like, I'm not in the vibe for this. But I like still listened to it. But I know I need to go back and watch it again when I'm in a more positive headspace because I was
The
not.
activation call.
It was a bonus call that she only did for people who posted
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
testimonials.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember her sending that out, and she's like, "If you
Yeah,
post here and here, yeah, yeah, yeah."
yeah.
Okay,
It was
okay.
that one. It was a good call. I got a lot out of it. I just know that it would have hit differently if I was in a different headspace. And I know I need to
Mm-hmm.
watch it again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing that program and laying. I've been reading. Oh my gosh, have you read Akatar?
What's that?
Girl, it's these ones. They're like the most popular book. This is the third one, and I'm on it. I just finished the second one last night. I stayed up until 3 in the morning reading because I couldn't put
Mm,
it down. I love these. Are so good. You need them.
okay.
They're so
What are
good.
they
The
about?
first, it's like a fantasy, like fairies, and it's kind of similar. I mean, it's nothing like Harry Potter, but it is like the way that Harry Potter is fantasy. It has like a really good story that you're very into and like challenges some. It's not comparable to Harry Potter. It still like has some smut and stuff in it, but it's just like the fantasy type, like a really
Okay.
good book. Everyone's obsessed with it. I've heard like everyone talk about these books, so I was finally like, okay, I'm not really into fantasy. It's not my
Mm-hmm.
thing usually, but oh my gosh, these are so good.
Okay.
And the first one is like it took me a long time to get into the first one, like probably more than half, because it's a lot of world building, and it
Mm.
was pretty boring for me. Like I liked a lot of it, but it was not worth the hype. I was like, it better get better because this is not the hype. The
Yeah.
second book, oh my, by far my favorite book I've ever read, probably. I haven't read
Oh,
a
you
ton
got
of
it again?
books. I just started reading, but yeah, it's so good. You'll love
Load it
it.
up again. Let me see it again.
This is the third one. A Court
The
of Wings
Court of
and Ruin.
Wings. Ooh,
Look how big
delightful.
it is.
Holy crap, bro.
And there's 5 of them. And then there's like part of a universe. So like you know how the Marvel movies like they don't all go together, but they're all in the same universe.
Yeah.
So it's like that. She has another series that's like it's Throne of Glass, and it's I don't know how many books, but probably like 7 or 8. I don't know. So there's like this 5, and then that big series, and then there's another one that has 3, I believe. So it's like a whole universe. So it's like I'm gonna be reading those all year.
What?
But I read like all day, every day this entire last week. So that's all I have just been laying in bed. And my kids have been serving me when I want a juice. They bring me a juice.
Oh.
Just been reading. But it's actually been very peaceful because I love to read and I think that I needed that break. So as much as I've been
Yeah.
in pain and it's been horrible, I think it's been a really good like just rest, give my mind a break because I can't try to do anything. I can't try to focus on things because my
Mm-hmm.
mind is just like so in pain. So it's given my
Mm.
mind a break, which I don't ever give my mind a break very often. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
really good. Today
I
it
like
was so sweet. So Addison, the other day, she said she would clean my room if I let her have an extra hour on her phone. And I don't care about her having an extra hour, but she's always offering to do stuff for it. So I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But she said she would do it, and then she hasn't. But today, I went and picked Haley up from school. Addison stayed home because she didn't feel well, and I came home and my room was completely clean, and she did it all while I
Oh.
was gone. She made my
Oh,
bed for me, and when I making my bed is like such a small thing, right? But because I've been laying in that bed for a week straight, like the sheets are all to one side, and like the blankets falling off, and like it's not even, and I hate getting in my bed when it's not all straight and even. I've been
yeah.
hating my bed this last couple of days because I'm like I have to fix
Oh.
it, but it's like too much energy to pull it over. Like So I'm very, very grateful. I was so happy to come home to a clean room.
She's so
She's so sweet.
sweet.
She's the best.
What a
My kids are the
loving
best.
daughter.
Yeah.
That's a
Speaking of
vibe.
kids, let's talk about parenting.
Yes.
I don't know where to
My
start.
kids have done things like that. We'll just pick it up from there.
Yeah.
Stefan, my youngest, did stuff like that a lot, and his fiance actually is kind of like him. They used to live with me for a little while, and she'll do that, especially like when she wasn't working and things like that. Remember, I used to live on, was it Fifth South, I think, and I
Hmm.
had that apartment that kind of overlooked the city on the fourth floor
Like
where we
by the
spent
Apollo or
years.
something? Crown Burger
Yeah,
or
where
Apollo
we
or something?
did
Okay, yeah.
years. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So when I was over there, they came and they lived with me for a little while, and she wasn't working at that time. And I would go to work, and I would come home. This girl would have the whole house clean.
Oh
You
my
heard,
gosh.
like all day. She would have everything. She'd be like, "I didn't plan dinner." Like the girl cleans, she cooked. She's just my little angel. I fell in love with her off top. I'm
Oh,
like, keep her, son. I'm like,
yeah.
who
She
raised this child?
really, yeah, she's great. She cooks all the time. She really
Yes.
has like some very great sweet qualities. She's a very that's awesome. I love that she did that for you. I think like
Yeah.
the key for me, like my kids do stuff for me all the time. And I think the biggest thing is like being so grateful for it because the more
Yeah.
that I'm like I appreciate them and I am grateful for them and I reward them for doing their things, they just want to keep doing more. And my kids like they will just do more and more and more. And the more that I give them like positive feedback and stuff, the more they'll want to do for me. And I don't even have to
Yeah.
ask. And but it's
Yeah.
also like you have to not take advantage of it and really appreciate them because then there's been times where I just like go through a rut and I don't want to do anything and I'm asking, especially Addison because she just will do anything for me. I am asking for too much and she has to like tell me like I feel guilty to say no, but you're asking me to do too much. I'm getting frustrated and I like you gotta respect it and
Yeah.
like there's a balance to that too. But I'm so grateful. Kids are amazing.
I feel like looking back on, so my kids are adults for anyone who doesn't know. I have three children. My oldest is my niece. She's technically my oldest sister's daughter, and I adopted her when she was 11, legally adopted. So she calls me mom to this day. And then she's 32 now. And then my sons are 26 and 24. And then Addie, my son's fiance, I think is 23. So, raising them, and I didn't get my daughter until she was 11. So there was like a while that I didn't have her, and I was just raising my boys. And I felt like they kind of took turns at different ages. There was a certain age, raising my boys where my oldest son would just everything. Whatever mom wants, whatever mom needs, self sacrificial. I'll give up the shirt off my back for mom. I'll lay down my jacket over a puddle type. And then they kind of flopped. It was weird. And then there was a time he
Mm-hmm.
was more selfish and my youngest was more, like
Yeah.
whatever mom wants. And then my oldest is like, it's about me in this piece. Like,
Mm-hmm. My kids
and
have
I'm
flopped
like,
too. Yep.
so they definitely both kind of had their times at different ages where one is just like, oh, and raising my kids too, it was kind of a lot like being a single mom. You're obviously a single mom as well. You co-parent, but for the most part, right, you're a single mom. And I was married for most of raising my children, but I functioned like a single mom because my ex was military. So he was
Mm-hmm.
usually gone the majority of the time. He was one place or another. So just my boys, I think, would kind of stand in his stead and they looked up to him a lot. He did treat me really well in their eyes. And so that I always was grateful for because they just wanted to kind of emulate that. And I think they took
Mm-hmm.
different times doing that. Oh, I got to open mom's door and I got to,
Oh,
my youngest would rub my little feet with his little hands.
that is so
When his
cute.
dad was deployed. He do it like this.
That's
I'll
so
never forget. It
cute.
was so cute. He'd be like, "Mom, you want a foot rub?" And take off my high heels. Like I'd get home and I can't get my boots
Oh,
off, especially in the winter there in Utah. He'd be like, "Let me help you, Mom." and helping me get my shoes. You want a foot rub? So
That's so
yeah.
cute. They were being little men because my daughters have never, like, obviously they would never open my door or rub my feet or anything. They're just like
Mhm.
cleaning and cooking. Like, it's just like the natural gender rules, I think, of like, that's just what we do naturally. That's cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I think kids just emulate you, which is kind of
Yeah.
the takeaway. Whatever is the parent that they're kind of seeing the most,
Yeah.
they just tend to really do what you're doing, which is all the more importance if you're a parent to watch what you're doing at all times because your
Hmm.
kids are
They
looking.
copy everything.
When you don't think they're looking, they're looking. When you don't think they're paying
Yeah.
attention, they damn sure are. When you don't think they're
Yes.
listening, and that's at every age. I don't think that starts at a certain age. I think from the time they can perceive, right,
Hmm.
they're looking at what's around them, and the majority of the time they're
Hmm.
with you. And so they're picking up on that.
Yeah, I mean,
You're
even
looking
when
at
they're learning how to talk, they're copying the
yeah,
words you say. They're like
yeah,
they really are just copying you and becoming you.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
really noticed that a lot over the last couple of years because I've been very much into like self love and like taking care of and having my own space or things like that. And
Hmm.
my daughters are very much into that. Like Haley, she texted me the other
Yay.
day because she was like, "I'm gonna go to bed. I'm so tired." It was like 7 o'clock or something, and I'm like, "Okay, good night." So she leaves, and then she's like an hour later asking for more time on her phone. And I was like, I thought you were going to bed. And she's like, well, I was, but what I meant by that was that I needed time for myself. Hashtag self love. And I
Oh,
was like,
cute.
okay. You're so my kids. I'm like, all right.
That's cute.
Yeah, they just really become who we are. It's crazy, actually, to
I
watch.
like that you're teaching them that, because that's not something I really was taught at that age was self love. I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily see my mom practicing self love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let alone talking about it or anything like that. And so, yeah, I just kind of wanted to be really a different parent than my mom was. My dad, I was really close with, but there was a lot of my life I wasn't that close with my mom. And so when I had kids, I was like, I'm going to parent totally different, than what
Mm-hmm.
my mom did with me and all these things like that. And so, yeah, I'd say, question to pose is what was your hardest age? How old are your kids now?
My oldest is so they have birthdays next month, or not next month, in a couple months. They're gonna be 15 and 13.
Okay. So yeah,
So
what would you say thus far was the hardest phase or
Um,
age
I
in
think like
raising them?
seventh grade, especially for my one of my daughters, really struggled with depression, and I mean very deeply to the point where I had to have like the suicide hotline number on my fridge in case I needed people to come to my house and intervene, and like it was
Wow.
concerning. I couldn't have the doors closed because I didn't
Wow.
want her behind a closed door. She had thought about ways that she couldn't empty the dishwasher because she would look at the knives and just think about that. Like it was
Wow.
very, very concerning. It was the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life, having a child go
Hmm.
through that. And especially, I obviously am not going to talk about the reasons for that. But it was very frustrating to feel like it was out of my control. I couldn't fix it. And it just made me, I think that's why I talked more about self-love and stuff to them, because most of my self-love stuff that I do is really on the weekends when they're gone. I spend all of my time with them when they're here, other than, even though they're teenagers, they go to bed at 8 o'clock because I need my time at night, so they understand like that space and they take that time for themselves as well. But I think that all came from me needing to pull her out of it, and so I had to like give her more of my personal life, because we tend to, like, I keep my personal life very separate from them. They don't know anything about my personal life, because I'm a single mom. And if you're not a single mom, they can be part of your entire life, but when you are a single mom, they really have to be separate. So it just made me give her more, I think, than I would have. So I'm grateful for it. I think that we're very, very close because we went through all of that, but for sure that was the hardest thing. And then when my other one was about that age, she also like has an attitude, and like she'll like snap back at me, and like, but it's not like in a sometimes it's disrespectful, but for the most part it's more like standing up for herself. That girl, she is strong and confident, and like she will not let anyone
Yes.
walk all over her. She will put me in my place. And I mean, I've talked about that a little bit before, but it's still a hard age because she's butting heads with, like, she's pushing back, and I'm like having to teach her and go through that. And it's just like the young ages are hard because there's like you don't get sleep, you don't like it's very hard to physically demanding, but now it's like the emotional, like now I'm parenting, now I'm
Yes.
teaching them to be good humans, now I'm making
Yes.
sure that they can go and be on their own. My oldest is going to be 18 in 3 years. In 3 years she's going to be a whole adult, and I've got to make sure she's ready. So I think it's harder for that reason. What do you think was the hardest ages?
Well, I like that you brought that up, because you just said, hey, it was hard when they were younger for this reason. That kind of makes me think, like, yeah, it is kind of hard the whole way, but in different aspects and different stages for
Mm-hmm.
different reasons. So when they were born, both of them, especially my first, oh God, when he was born, like, he did not cry the first couple months, and I thought I was in heaven, and then the crying hit like later on, and so I'm like, oh, this this is rough. You can't sleep. So it's really hard with a newborn. You can't sleep through the night. You got to build new habits and feeding and things like that. And then when they're mobile, oh, you got to watch all the dangerous things that they can
Yeah.
reach. So it's like, oh my God, that's really hard. I remember, don't judge me, y'all. This is a true story. I remember because I think I just said a moment ago, I think that was on camera, not off camera, that my ex was usually deployed. So I was usually by myself. So we lived in Florida and I was at Home Depot or something like that trying to get some home renovation. I don't know what I was getting. And my sons are 2 years apart. So my youngest was just a couple months old, and I just used to like take his car seat and sit it, just in the cart. I didn't necessarily like strap it or take him out. He was too old to really like sit up in the car and stuff by himself. So I would just kind of like sit the whole car seat. And how the cart comes out and you got the top part. So I would just kind of like sit his car seat on top of there. So I'm going around Lowe's. I stop and look at a shelf. He's not far, but I'm like preoccupied looking at the shelf. My poor baby trying to sit up and flips out the whole doggone thing on the concrete. Ah!
Oh.
Like head first. I was like, oh Lord, what did I do?
I'm pretty sure we've all seen our kid go flop and oh
They just move so much just to show you like it's hard when they start to become mobile.
no. It is. Especially at first because you're used to them being so little and like they don't move.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden
right.
they're moving themselves. It's
Everywhere.
crazy. Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Even the places you don't think they can get, they sure can.
Yes. Girl, I had such a hard, that was like my first year in Florida and I had to go to the ER. I wanted to make sure he was all right.
Yeah.
And then same year now, his dad was deployed. He got deployed to Korea his whole first year. As soon as I had my baby, he was deployed within like a month. Like he left me as like a month old and he didn't come back for a year. So that incident happened while he was gone. Then my oldest, my 2 year old, got into the doggone cabinet somehow. Like I had the latches, the safety latches. He somehow figured it out. I don't know. And like got into my cleaning supplies and dumped it all over his brother. So like I'm sitting in my house and I'm like, why does it smell so good? It smells really good. It's like, oh, here come my baby crawling and like crying. His eyes are closed because he got this liquid going all in his eyes and mouth. Like he just dumped it. And it's just like, so again, here we go with the ER. I said, they don't think I'm abusing my damn kids, Lord.
You're taking them in though. You're making sure they're okay. That's all we can do.
Report on me,
The
Jesus.
mistake was made. Let's just make sure they're gonna survive. I feel like now looking back, I feel like that's the goal. Like up until when they're teenagers and you have to start teaching them, like life. Before that, it's just like keep them alive.
Don't hurt
And,
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I kept telling myself. Like when she was struggling with depression, it was in my mind like I've just got to keep her alive. Just make it a few more years. Like, that's all I gotta do.
That's so true. It's so
It
true.
is.
Oh, and I was the type of parent like everything. My kids weren't super techie. You know, my oldest was born in 97 and my other one in 99. So they're 90s babies, partially tech, not like today's
Mm-hmm.
kids where it's full tech. And so, like, as they started, as I would let them have an Xbox or like whatever, and there's an online account, no, I would check that thing. Mm, every so often, we're sitting down. Who are your friends? We're going through one by one. Who is so and so? Who's cookies for me? Like, reading the
Yeah.
screen name. Do you know him? Have you met him in person? Is this like I was going down because I had like this scare tactic type of parenting with my kids where I'm just like, no, the world is a scary place. And I'm going to tell
Mm-hmm.
you that way you don't think I'm lying. Like, and so I always was just like this scary, it kept them alive, but that was my tactic is like, let's go through if you don't know this person and do you know why I'm doing this? Because they could be a sexual predator. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
how many? And I literally like pulled up sexual predators in my area, which was terrifying to see
Yeah.
how many lived in my area. And I went through it with my children because they walked to school and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean by like scare tactics. Okay, this is how many sexual predators live.
Yeah.
Look, you can see there because they have to be public, they have to be
They
registered. And
do.
I would zoom in, look at their house. Don't
Mm-hmm.
like make mental notes of this, children. You
Yeah.
going to your friend's house? Okay, I need to meet. If it was a first brand new friend, oh girl, we went down the list. Okay, I need to meet their mom and dad, where they live, what's their address, what you gonna be doing. I need to know that the parents know that you're gonna be there because you ain't slipping no fast one. Like all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, girl. I had to have all the info broke down. I'm like, cause I ain't gonna find you dead in a ditch. You wanna be dead
Yeah.
in a ditch? Ask my
I'm
kids.
not
That
like
was like
that at
my
all.
famous line. Dead in a ditch.
That's how their dad is. He scares them, and I just am not that way. First of all, I don't want to meet people. I've met like their close friends. People like they won't have sleepovers without me knowing who they're with. Like that's not ever.
Mhm.
I don't even really allow sleepovers for the most part. But like when they're
Yeah.
just like going to hang out with friends and stuff, like I used to do all that, but now I'm just like
Yeah.
I just don't. I I try to just be positive and try like they know the feelings. We have like our secret words. We know like how I pick them up. We talk about like what would happen in situations, but I don't like live in fear because my ex husband lived in fear to such an extreme that I hate it. I absolutely hate it, and I won't live
Yeah.
like that. But it's also like it's a trauma thing. Like when there's because you are not at the extreme of what he is. Like there's different levels, and his extreme is just like too much for me. So I
Yeah.
have been very different in that way.
Well, the thing is, too, like I've been kidnapped in my life. That's
Mm.
another story for another episode.
Oh,
But
that
me
makes
and
a
my
big
best
difference.
friend, Sparkle, were kidnapped
Oh,
at
I
12 and
remember
11 years
that.
old. Yeah,
I
like
remember
real
now.
life. I'm lucky to be
Hmm.
alive here today.
Yeah.
So that's what
Someday we'll
kind
tell
of,
that story.
you know what I mean? That's what fueled my parenting style. And I grew
Hmm.
up, I didn't grow up in the hood, but I grew up across from the hood.
Yeah.
you know, there would be gunshots out my door growing up every other night and things like that. So I was just really aware and I used that it was more of a street sense. I wasn't like overly like trying to terrify the hell out of my kids, but I was like, you're damn sure gonna have street smarts because this
Hmm.
stuff happens. It's real. Don't think it's just on TV. Don't think it can't
Yeah.
happen to you because it can and it will,
Hmm.
type of thing. So I was just honest. Like, look, kids, I'm not going to sugarcoat and act like people don't kidnap and people don't do and
Yeah.
everybody
Definitely
nice.
don't
And
sugarcoat. Yeah. You
you
gotta.
know what I
They
mean?
have to know it's real. They have to know about the risks. It's just like
Yeah.
their dad's like sending them news articles all the time of everything that happens to all these people, and I'm like, let's talk about what would like the situation. What would you do with the situation? Like we have conversations around it. They have to know that it's a real risk. You can't just like live in la la land.
Yeah.
There's just different levels of it, and I think that especially like
Yeah.
where you lived and you had boys who like needed to know how to take care of themselves and my kids like the school was like across the street basically and like it's just different and I lived in a place like It was such a nice area. It happens still, obviously. We have to talk about it, but it's not, I didn't have to be concerned. If we were like living downtown, I would have had the same exact parenting style as you. I would have been very different than what I
Yeah, I did not play when it came to my kids, and
am.
they
Yeah.
knew,
Mm-hmm.
and it kept them safe. It worked. They're alive. They're well. They stayed off the streets. They're good children. I can't say
Mm-hmm.
that for all of my peers. There's people who I
Yeah.
know who I went to high school with who their children are dead,
Oh,
you know, already. And so it's like, yeah, my tactic might have been scare tactics, but it
it
worked. My kids
worked.
got some street sense to this day that they carry into adulthood, right? Because at some point you got to let your kids go and then they got to make their
Yep.
own decisions out there, and you just don't. With my daughter, she was a lot more, for lack of a better word, like she didn't have common sense. She didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
the regular type of sense. And she was honestly a lot more naive because she would easily trust, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that like in a bad way to put her down or anything like
Right.
that, but it's something I had to be very aware of in parenting her. And I had to
Mm-hmm.
parent her very different. I think too, it's different parenting girls than boys because I didn't
Absolutely.
parent her the same way. With my boys, I can say and do certain things, and be a lot more gruff. With her, I couldn't, and I did things very more emotionally.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so,
I think it's important to just notice like there's not one right way. We're all going to do things completely different, and it's what works for you. And the whole point is to raise good kids and hopefully have a good relationship with them. And
and keep them alive.
yes, get them to 18. If they are alive at 18, you did your job. You did it. Congratulations.
Then they got to keep themselves alive after that.
Yes. Yes. It's you saying that story about when they were little, and what happened. It reminded me of a story that makes me laugh. So there was a time. So Addison was like maybe 1 month old. She was a teeny tiny little baby. So, and I had her laying in her cradle, and Haley was 2 years old, and so she's just a little toddler walking around. And I wanted to go get the mail, so I went outside to get the mail, and I forgot that our door automatically locks when it closes. So I walked out, and I could not get back in my house. And I'm like panicking because Addison wasn't like in a crib where Haley couldn't get to her. She was in a cradle where Haley could just pick her up and be like, "Oh, let me take care of you." Like I was terrified. So I'm like, I'm about to call 911 and be like, "Send a fire truck. I need help getting in my house." I was so scared. But then my neighbor came walking out, and I was like, "Do you have a ladder?" And he's like, so he went and crawled through the window for me, and like in the top window, and like went down and unlocked the door. I was terrified. There was another time that this is like
I love it.
when Haley was. It was like maybe 9 months after that because Addison was a baby again, but she was eating cereal, so she was a little bigger, and Haley was maybe closer to 3. And when I went to change Addison's diaper, I came back and Haley's gone. And I looked at the door, and the door was unlocked, which obviously I always keep it locked. And so I knew she left. And I was like, I walked outside, and it was like in the movies how they make everything like slow motion and they're spinning around you. That is a real thing. I'm telling you, the world was slow and spinning around me. I was like twirling around, looking every direction. I was like, where do I even go? It was slowly spinning. I was panicking. That is real. I thought that was just like an effect in the movie to make it like seem dramatic. No, that is based off of experience. That is a real thing. So I went over, and she was just on the park playing. She had a dress on with no underwear. She's just at the park. And I walked over and I looked at her, and she didn't even have to say a word. She walked straight to me and walked with me in the house. My mouth did not open. I did not hold her hand. We walked in the house, went inside her bed, and I laid into that girl because I was like, I have to make her so scared because this is dangerous. Yeah. So I was screaming at her. Like, she got in trouble. She was so scared that she was too scared to tell me that she had to go to the bathroom, and she peed her bed.
Oh,
and that made me feel so bad. But you have to make like something like that where it literally puts them in danger. You have to make it like very extreme and make them understand, especially at that age. You can't sit and have a conversation and explain the danger. They have to remember how scary that was. Yeah. So
Yeah.
That's probably the most mad I've ever gotten at her. Actually,
Yeah.
I was mad. But it's hard having young kids, but
Put the fear of God in her.
she put the fear of God in me, so I put it right back. Yeah. It was so bad. It was so
Did you
bad.
ever lose your kids?
No.
Like chopping or anything for a second?
Mm-mm.
So I
No.
remember, I don't know where I was living. I think I was living in Texas. We were military, so we moved. My kids lived everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were in Texas at the time. No, I don't know. We could have been New Mexico. I just remember my son was like 2 or 3. I think he might have been like 4 at the time. And my oldest son, and I don't know what I was doing, just whatever going on about my day. And then I realized like I haven't seen him, you know? I'm like, where is my son? Like looking all around the house. Girl, heart start beating. I'm like, oh Lord, I could not find my son anywhere. I'm looking inside, outside. I'm
Oh, was it your
calling him.
house?
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
like,
that has happened to me. I'll tell you in a second, but keep going.
girl, I'm calling him. I was about to call the cops too. Like he was about to. I'm like, okay, I'm like 2 seconds from calling the cops. I cannot. Where's my child? Like I thought he was
Mm-hmm.
gone. Finally, I don't know. I looked under his bed. He was like sleep under his doggone bed. I'm like,
Yeah, dude, that's scary. It is. So I thought you meant like in public, if I ever lost him in public, and I didn't do that. But there was a day when Haley was like 5, maybe. We had a really big house, so they were like in the upstairs, and then there was the main level, and then in the basement we had like a theater room, so we were down in the theater. And me and my ex-husband are just like watching a movie. The kids are in bed, and like we go up to check on them, and Haley's not in bed, and we'd already put her to sleep. Like she should be in bed. So we're like looking all around the house, and that morning, this is so crazy because that morning our carbon monoxide monitors were going off, so we called 911 to have them come and look. The fire
yeah.
trucks had to come and check it. So we called 911 that morning, and they came and did that. And then it's that night, and we can't find our kid. And I'm like, we're looking through like every single room. We tore that place apart. My ex-husband got in his truck, and he's like driving through the field with his lights on, screaming her name out the window. Like, we looked for her. I called 911 again, and I was like, my daughter's missing. We can't find her. It was so scary, dude, because you think they're kidnapped. Like, when they just straight disappear,
Right.
like,
You do.
someone came in and stole my kid.
You do.
It was so scary. And then, so it was like probably 40 minutes that she was missing. And then we finally, I walk upstairs and I see my ex-husband is just laying on his stomach on the floor of our bedroom, and he is just sobbing. And I'm like, I walked in, and it's because he finally found her. So he could finally just like, because she was like, we had a desk in the corner that was like an L-shaped desk, and she was under the desk in the very back corner wrapped up in a blanket. And she heard us yelling for her, and she got scared that she was in trouble. So she just kept hiding. Yeah. So she was just hiding under there, and it was horrible. It was horrible. It's so scary.
Oh, I love that story.
But I could not believe I called 911 twice in a day. And I think that's the only time I've ever called. Once I had to call for my mom when she fell down the stairs, but that I don't feel like that counts. It wasn't for me. I've never in one day I called
Twice in one day.
Twice. Yeah. It was
horrible. I love that so much. She was right in your house.
Yeah. She still remembers that, just sitting under there scared. She's like, I didn't want to come out.
Oh my gosh, kids find some places. Like,
They
where
do.
are y'all be going?
Especially when it's like a whole house. Like, you think about hide and seek, how long sometimes it can take to find a kid, right? And that's playing a game.
Yeah.
You know they're hiding. But when they are genuinely hiding and you can't find them, it's a whole, like, it can take a long time to find them. It's scary.
That's next level.
Yeah. So what do you think is, like, the biggest, like, lesson you've learned, like, that you would give advice to people? What's the biggest thing for you?
Honestly, because I'm such a different parent now, and I think just before I guess this is part of the answer to preface it, but it's very different parenting, younger kids versus adult kids. And I
Mhm.
get to be different, but it's so much easier nowadays because I've done a lot of work on myself. And so, my biggest piece of advice, like if I went back to younger me or even maybe young moms out there, is like just don't force things on your kids, whether it's religion, whether it's rules. Like the rules don't necessarily need to be so, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I was Nazi with it. Like I wasn't abusive or anything by any means, but everything was so serious and it caused discord the older they got, you know,
Mhm.
because I just had these hard, fast rules that I was holding on, and if they were breaking those rules, especially my oldest, my youngest, honestly, was pretty easy to raise. And I think it's because he saw all the trouble I went through with my oldest. But
Mhm.
you don't have to hold on so tight. Like, let them figure out who they are and just more be like a guide and a mentor. You're not the dictator type
Right.
of thing. And I think that's where a lot of parents come in. But I was raised under that dictatorship type of parenting. So I think people tend to parent a little bit how they were parented. Even when you say you're not, it's somewhere I think in there, and
Mhm.
kind of comes out. And so there were things I just was too dictator with, and it caused a lot of heartache and a lot of fights and a lot of unnecessary pain, especially raising a boy,
Mhm.
into a man. There's just certain things that I wish I wouldn't have said or done and would have done differently because I was so rigid. And
Yeah.
so I guess to sum that all up, it's like be more fluid and allow your kid and trust them, you know, trust them. You've taught
Mhm.
them all the things, trust them, you know. And I think that's where I was losing it is I wasn't trusting him.
Yeah.
Nope, you're not, not, you're at a, every little thing that wasn't exactly how I wanted it or was outside of my rules, or maybe I wouldn't have done it like that. Like I'm ready to correct, and it stifles, you know?
Mhm.
And I don't want to be stifling to my children. And I don't live with regret, right? That's something that I used to. I'm not saying I don't regret things. I'm saying I try not to hold on to that
Right.
feeling in my self work,
Yes.
because it doesn't really serve us. And humans are the only mammals that regret things. No other
Yep.
mammal does that. And so, but if I could go back and reparent and do some things differently, I would teach my kids about human design a lot earlier, if I had known, and just instill that
Yeah.
confidence in them a different way. I wouldn't force religion on them like for a while, which eventually I did let up on that as I started to change. But for a while when they were young, I forced it. You're going to
Mhm.
church. This is what we do, kind of thing. And so that's what I mean by dictator. You just, everything's not that serious and they're trying to figure out who they are, and you're stifling that sometimes, you
Yeah.
know. And some of my friends, I watch them parent and I can see that. But who am I?
Yes.
I can't tell you how to parent your kids,
Yep.
but I can see that, the mistakes
Mhm.
that I made, and how I used to be. And I'm like, you're over dictating. Your child's trying to grow up and be an adult, and you're doing the most right now.
Mhm.
Like, you got to let back sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm saying the exact same thing. There's just a little bit of a different perspective and way of saying it. Um, when my kids were young, I was not a good mom. Like our house was a mess all the time. Like it's like that's the one thing I regret in my life that I'm like it's embarrassing. I hate that. That's the only thing in my past where it like makes me cringe because I hate that I lived in such a mess and my kids lived in that. But we would like I just felt like it was always like we were yelling all the time and we were like we weren't happy so they weren't happy. It was horrible and like so
Yes.
I feel like
Yes.
my parenting I started learning and growing once I got divorced is when I really started
Yes.
like growing into being a parent. Before that it was
Yes.
just a hot mess. And when
Yes.
I got divorced my kids were like 6 and 4 around then. So it wasn't too long into their lives, but long enough. And I had to learn. And I think that in the beginning, I was very much like that, like because I didn't trust my oldest, and I was like going through her phone all the time and getting mad at her, and like just all this stuff of like clinging on so tightly. And I have friends who are too far, I think, the other way, where they don't care enough. And
Mm-hmm.
so I allowed, like, whenever I was like being really mad about something, I would try to like be more like them, like not to that extent, but it helped me to kind of pull myself back. Like, if they can be like this, I can pull back a little bit. So I kind of started learning that. But the biggest thing for me, I think, is like treating them like people, like changing your mindset so they are not just your kids. You're not the boss. I mean, you are the boss, like you, what you say goes, but also you're not the boss in their life. They're the main character of their life. You can't just say like, because I said so, it's not something I believe in. If my kids are asking me why, I will explain it. And the reason that I did that is because I remember when I was a kid, my mom would always tell us not to touch the thermostat, but we always did. And we, like, if we were hot, we would turn it down. If like, we would always change it. And then one
Yeah.
day she explained to me, not even because she was trying to like teach me, it was just like part of a different conversation where she was like, the power bill is so high because we keep changing the thermostat. And like, so that was the first time I understood the why. And I was like, oh, I never touched it again. And before that,
Yeah.
when it was because I said so, I did
Mm-hmm.
all the time because I didn't care. I didn't know better. So
Yeah.
that like sticks out in my mind a lot of like, because I said so doesn't teach them anything. And sometimes
Yes.
we're wrong. We are not right about everything that we say and do. And if you don't say because I said so, and you have a conversation and treat them like a human, like how you would talk to your friend and say, why do
Yes.
you feel that way? And have a
Yes.
conversation and then get on the same page. And sometimes when my kids are spiraling, they'll sit and like think that I'm putting them down in this way and I'm saying this about them, and I have to talk them out of that. I have to like adjust their mindset. Like, we have conversations when it's something hard. We do not just say like, go to your room, you're in trouble. No, like we talk through it. And because of that,
Yes.
of seeing them as people, they are my best friends. I am their
Yeah.
best friend. My
Yeah.
15-year-old tells everyone at school that her mom is her best friend. That is not a common thing for a 15-year-old. And it's because
Yes.
I treat them like people. And you have to really see them that way, because once you see your kids as people and not just your kids that you get to boss around, that's when the relationship changes. That's when they trust you. So now I don't have to be all like dictating them and telling them what to do because I trust them. And
Yes.
it makes it easier for them. Like, if they mess up, then they lose trust and they have to earn it back. But that's a
Right.
conversation. So I think that's the
Right.
biggest thing for me is like, don't just say because I said so, and see them as real humans that they are, that they're just growing. When they can turn 18, like if you think about your life, how much did your life matter from when you were born until you were 18? Mine doesn't matter at all. I don't think about that part, but that's like school. It does not, I don't think about, I don't even remember most of it. My life
Mm-hmm.
is really from when I was 18 until now. That's what I remember. That's what I had to do on
Yeah.
my own. Everything before that doesn't mean anything to me. So, do
Yeah.
you want your relationship with your kids to end when they turn 18? Because none of that matters to them. Because if you want to
Yeah.
have a good relationship moving forward, you've got to have those building blocks and build it and have them respect you and
Yes.
be that person for them.
Yes. Tell it, girl, you better take us to church today.
Yeah, I mean, I get asked all the time, like, why, like, how I do it. How, because people see our relationship and people comment on it often. People comment on how
Yes.
amazing my kids are and how well behaved they are often. And
Yes.
that's why.
I love it. Something you said that kind of touched bases with me is treating them like people.
Mm-hmm.
How profound is that? If you
Yeah.
really let that sink in, in the back of your mind, let that marinate, listeners. Like treating them like
Mm-hmm.
not like you're the end all be all over their life. That's a different
Yep,
mindset.
it
And that
is.
was me then. I'm the end all be all. And when I switched from that to treating them like people, ah,
Yep.
That's magic words. If you
It
could sum it
is.
all up in one thing, that's probably what I would say right there. Just treat them like
Yeah.
people,
Me
because
too.
then the trust is going to come. Then the
Yep.
communication's going to come. Then the relationship's going to be strong. Then all the things, right?
Yeah.
But when you refuse to see them like that and you're like, you're under my control, which I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
parenting is, you think they're like, I got to control them, you
Yes.
know,
It
like
can't
it's
be
a
that way.
jail. And they're like, they're the people in your jail. No.
People try to
Like,
escape from jail.
right. And that's why.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why the kids be running away and leaving and cutting their parents out of their
Yep.
life. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because you've been treating them like that with that mentality. So when they're 18, holler, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm talking to you,
Absolutely.
you know? And so that's beautiful. I love that you said that. And two, I just want to comment on how long we've known each other. I got to see some of the old you and
Mm-hmm.
develop into the new you and that relationship with your girls. And that has been beautiful watching that develop. And it really did start with you, that man in the
Mm-hmm.
mirror. We can't say that enough on this show. Anything you do, any topic we really can talk about is going to start in here,
Yep.
you know.
You
It
gotta be
wasn't
good with
until you
you.
said, let me get real and let me see what's going to heal Britney. You know, what's that Melanie say? For me, for you, for us.
Yep.
When you started doing your life like that, it really grew and blossomed, and your girls really blossomed and healed. And that relationship is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
And I love being able to witness that, you
I'm
know.
glad you mentioned that because I remember like a few years ago when my daughter who was depressed was really struggling. It was hard for me. It was hard. And that was at the time when I was feeling like I couldn't trust her and I was having to like I was seeing things on her phone that I was like, this is not okay. And I was yelling at her all the time. And I like they would go to their dad's for a weekend and I would go with you and like I would complain to you like I am so tired of being a mom. Like I was so drained. You are the only person that I really told how hard
Mm-hmm.
it was for me. You're the only person that saw it because to everyone else you got to act like you've got it together. But to you,
Yeah.
were the only person that I felt embarrassed to like I felt like a
Mm-hmm.
bad mom to even say that to you, but it was real and it was like I needed to
Yeah.
talk about it
Yeah.
because I felt so overwhelmed. All the time I felt like they deserve better than me. I felt like I couldn't do it. I felt like I needed to get a therapist to like talk me into wanting to be a mom because
Mm-hmm.
it was hard. And
Yeah.
yeah, you really saw that. You saw my frustration, and now I have no frustration with my kids.
I
I
know. Now you're just
don't
like,
yell.
oh, it's
Yeah,
so
I'm
effortless, you
so
know?
goddessy in my parenting. I'm like, it's good, and I'm
It is
super
that
proud of
goddess
that.
energy,
Yeah.
bring it in, you know, and that's just to kind of bring it back a little bit more to parenting and human design. If more people, Morgan, who we had on here a couple of weeks ago, that's one of her main things is she wants to really teach parents so that they
Mm-hmm.
can parent this way. You know, with that in mind, if I would have understood my children from a human design perspective
Yeah,
from the time I birthed them, girl.
it's a huge
Like I could have
difference.
just totally done things differently, right? And so if I ever did it again, I always say that. We talk about that often. Like if we ever started over and have more kids, man, we think we'd really nail it this time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning because we do have a lot more tools that we've been introduced to that we get to use that are getting more comfortable with us that would aid us in parenting, you know, whereas we didn't have ain't no manual, right, to being a parent. How often did I wish there was, you know, but ain't nobody. You got to do the best you can with what you got. And, you know, that's usually just how you were raised, which depending
Mm-hmm.
on if you like that or not, may not be of any use to you, you
Yeah.
know.
And I think you learn because I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to be like my parents, but I was not like that. And I don't have a great relationship with my parents, but I was a very good kid. I stayed out of trouble, and my mom just like let the reins free. She let me do what I wanted. She never said no. I really could do whatever. And there was one time that she said no about something, and I listened to it because I was like, wow, my mom doesn't ever say no. This obviously means something. There's a reason that I shouldn't be going, and so I didn't go. When
Love it.
normally, like other my friends stuck out and went anyway, but I was like, oh nope, I'm not doing that because she let me go. So I was like, I want to be like my mom in that way because I was a good kid. I made good choices because she allowed me the freedom to make those choices.
Yes.
But now that I am a parent and I treat my kids the way that I do and we have the relationship we have, I see why we never had that relationship, and I see the reasons that I do struggle with it with my mom. I see like the things that I'm like, oh, this is what I do differently. I'm glad that I do this differently. So it's not that I feel like my mom, she was a great mom to me. I'm very grateful for her. But just as a parent, I'm like, I would not do things the way that she did. But I didn't ever realize that until I noticed how differently I'm doing things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just
I like
learn.
that. You
Yeah.
learn, you know? And so for me, I'd like to say nowadays, not necessarily then, but nowadays, I reflect and I try to take the best, of the parenting from what each of my parents kind of gave me and utilize that. Obviously, there's a lot of aspects I didn't necessarily agree with, more so again, my mother than my father. My father, honestly, was really laid back and easy, and I don't really think anything one way or the other. I think he parented me really well, but my mom, we had a lot of our struggles, but that doesn't mean she parented me bad overall, right? And so there
Right.
are definitely some good aspects. But when I was younger, younger me took the bad aspects on. As much as I said I don't want to be like her, that's why I said some of that stuff tends to surface. Even when you're like, I don't want to parent like that and I don't want to be like that, it somehow can still surface and you don't even
Yeah.
realize you're kind of parenting the same way, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But at the end of the day, if you're working on you and if you're loving your child and treating them like the human that they are and not someone that you're have total control over, that's the end all be all for me.
Yeah.
That really is it.
Absolutely. And if you're being that way with your children and you're giving them what you wish you had, like it's healing your inner child and you realize things about yourself and about your like the shadow work stuff that you have to do. It really does become clear as you're parenting and as you learn because I feel like it's just like another growth lesson for us. Parenting is a
Yes.
way to learn about ourselves as well as raise
Yes. Ooh,
these
I like
people.
that. I like that a lot. Parenting is a way for us to learn about ourselves. I
Yeah.
That's really, you're saying some good gems tonight. Dropping them gems. Yeah, I really like that because it is. It gives you insight into that mirror. How am I really doing? How do I really feel about myself? And is this kind of surfacing,
Mm-hmm.
in the way that I'm dealing and handling with my children? The older my children have got, we've had some knockdown, drag out arguments, and I'm not proud of that. And I wish I
Mm-hmm.
could take those back, but that was still me healing, right?
Yep.
But in the wake of those, I will say it's kind of what drove me more towards healing. The
Mm-hmm.
pain that's kind of left behind and the discord and wanting to heal those relationships with my children, which I have, we're all good. But all three of my children at some point or another were not speaking to me, whether it was me cutting them out or them or mutual. I went through that with my
Yeah.
children. Whereas, like I said, if I was just a little bit more understanding and listening and not trying to just kind of have things my way,
Mm-hmm.
and when I did start to think that way, that's when I was able to heal
Yeah.
with my children. But when I wasn't in that mindset, it was causing that,
Yeah.
adding to it,
Absolutely.
fuel to the fire.
Um, I'm glad you said that because the other really big thing for me is you are not above apologizing to your children, and it goes back to
Yes.
teaching them that they're human or treating them like they're human because we're gonna mess up. I snap at them sometimes. I've been in so much pain this weekend. I have been a beast, and I'm like so grumpy, and I've been mean. But they understand that when you mess up, you apologize, and I'm teaching them that because when I mess up, if I am in the wrong, I apologize, and I am very sincere about it. I'm not just like I'm sorry I did that. Like it is again a conversation of like this is what I was going through, this is why I did that. I'm really sorry, but like this is what led me to this. Like if it was something that they need to work on so it doesn't happen in the future, we'll talk about it. But I apologize to them all the time. Like I don't know if I apologize every day, but very close to every day because it's the small things. Like if you think about how you are like in a relationship, like the people that you're closest to, I feel like you will lash out at them easier than like people who are not as close to you.
Right, right.
And when you're like in the beginning of a relationship with a partner, you are your best self, and you will like if you mess up, you apologize, you talk through things, you make it, you want to present yourself as the best self, and our kids deserve that part of us. So you have to apologize to them and treat them the same as you would any other relationship. Just because they're your kids doesn't mean
Yes,
you can just like pound on them. They're
yes,
humans too, and it hurts them. And there's like and because I apologize so often, my kids feel safe to come to me and say, "You hurt my
yes.
feelings." And this, like, I don't like how this made me feel. And they will talk to me about it because I do the same for them. And it makes it so we don't ever have anything that we're holding on to and like having so much tension that it turns into this huge issue because we're always
Beautiful.
talking through it. Also, I
Okay.
tell my kids I love them 500 times a day. I tell my kids
Yes.
I'm proud of them anytime I see them do like they can do the smallest thing. Like Haley did something today that made me proud of her. I can't remember, but like if they do something, I'll recognize that. Oh, so it's been a thing that when I go to pick Haley up, I text her and she doesn't like respond. I'm coming or something. So I'm sitting there waiting, and I'm like, am I waiting if she hasn't seen her phone, or am I waiting if she's grabbing her stuff and coming? Because if she's grabbing her stuff and coming, I'm patient. But if I don't know if
Right.
she's seen it, I'm impatient. So I'm
Right.
like, you've got to just acknowledge the text. So it's like the
Right.
smallest thing, right? So today I picked her up from school. She said she was coming. She gets in the car. And I'm like, thank you so much for acknowledging. And she like sits up straight. She's like, are you proud of me? I've been acknowledging so good. Like it makes them feel good when you acknowledge them and when you like just recognize them. Again, just treating them like people. You've got to be proud of them. Tell them you love them. Say you're sorry, just like they're normal humans because they are.
Yes.
They're real humans.
Yes. A couple of things that you said real quick that I want to just touch on is you keep bringing up having conversations. So yeah, I love that aspect. I can't stress that enough of talking to them. And really, I'd say that can start at any age. I didn't think that when I was raising my kids. I thought they had to be like a certain age to have a conversation, but they don't. You can start initiating that whenever they're talking, or really when at any point. I feel like if you're just explaining and teaching them that at whatever point, like, let's talk about this is how I'm feeling, this is why, right? I didn't mean to make you feel that way. Like that whole thing where you're initiating that conversation, that to me is one of the key points, not only in your relationship with them, but their success in life, because that's one of the skills people lack the most is communication and really saying how
Yes.
they feel. Don't nobody want to say that even as adults, and you wonder why we out here looking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships can't stick and things like that because don't nobody really want to just get real and have these conversations, especially if they are upset or hurt or offended or whatever. That takes a lot to be able to sit down. And the fact that you're
Yeah.
teaching them this is young ladies, sit down and talk to me about how you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling, and I'm gonna sit down and talk to you. You made me upset as your mom. This is why, or vice versa.
Yes. It
Priceless.
It is because especially we're raising kids who are going to be in relationships someday, and it's so important. Like for women, we have to know how to communicate our needs because if a man is not communicating back to us, if they're not apologizing to us, that will feel so bad to my kids. If they have someone who's
Yes.
just doing things and not apologizing, they're not going to put up with it because that's not something they're used to. If they grow up being
Yes.
used to it from their parents, they're going to accept less. And with boys, when you're raising men, they need to be able to communicate their emotions. You've seen like what happens when we're dating men
Yes.
who can't communicate on both
Yes.
sides. These kids need to be taught to communicate
Yes.
and speak their mind and stand up for themselves. And I have
Yes.
so much faith that my kids are not going to settle for less because of that. I mean, we all end up doing it at some point in our lives, but I think they're very much stronger because we have those conversations.
Not for long. I definitely don't feel like your girls would
Yeah.
settle for less. Not for too long. Maybe for, because, somebody can put up charades for so
Mm-hmm.
long, but I really feel like what you're instilling in them is just so valuable, you know, and
I
that's
hope
something
so, but
that
I'm also not the
grow.
only parent. There's some
Yeah,
trauma stuff too that I think
that's
would
real.
cause them
That's real.
to, So we'll
Yeah,
see. I just,
yeah.
I can only do the best I
Do
can do.
the best you can do, and at least they have one parent that's instilling that. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So Lord willing, they won't even find themselves in a weird relationship. But if they do, hopefully. And the point is, you're so close. I have faith that even if they were in some weird situation, they would at least come to you,
Yeah,
and then
I
you'd
think
be
they
able to
would.
reconsole them. So, yeah, you got the other parent there that isn't necessarily, instilling the best things, but that tightness that you're building, that they're going to
Yeah.
have at any age, if something ain't right, they know I can call
Hmm.
mom,
Yeah.
and mom's going to tell me what's what, you
Yeah.
know?
I definitely think that, and I'm proud of that. A couple years ago, I did not think I would ever be here. It took a lot of work and a lot of effort, but you have
Yeah.
to, as a parent, put the effort in. It's not enough to just give a house and a like. I see parents who don't spend quality time with their kids, and like it's important. You can't just
Yeah.
provide for them. That's not all that they need. They need a parent. It takes
Yes.
work, and you have to put in the work. Um,
Yes.
I have something right now that I don't know what to do about. So I'm gonna ask you guys your advice. So comment what your advice is, because I don't really know what to do about this. So my rule is that they can't hang out like alone with boys until they're or go on dates or anything until they're 16.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Haley's gonna go to school, like high school. She'll be in high school right after she turns 15. So I feel like with dances and stuff, I've got to be lenient. But where I'm getting like torn is how does like trans play into that? So like they have friends who are born female, but they identify as male now. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, since that's how they identify, like, do I say, okay, well, that's a boy, you can't hang out with them? Or
Right.
because I mean the real reason is like you're scared they're gonna get pregnant, right? But also
Right.
like what if your kids are bi? Do you not let them
Yeah.
hang out with anybody? Like
I
I feel
know.
like these are not things that we grew up dealing with, and I am
No.
dealing with it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what do I do? Because my daughter has a friend who she wants to go and hang out with him a lot, and it's a boy, but I'm just like, but it's trans. It's just not the same. But they want to be
Yeah.
treated the same, right? You have to view them as they want to be viewed.
Right.
And so I told her she can't, and I felt so embarrassed because then she told him she's not allowed to because he's a boy. And then he was like, well,
Mhm.
that's not fair. And I'm like, but is it not though? Because that's the rule. But then
Right.
also, when I think about the bi aspect is what throws me. I'm like, okay, but if they're
Yeah.
bi, and by just not letting them hang out with anyone, and I don't know how to handle this, and if I should just allow it, and but I wouldn't let her go hang out with. I don't know. A lot of
That's
people let
tough.
them hang out with boys anyway at this age, and I just don't
That's
think it's
tough.
appropriate.
Yeah. That's tough. Oof.
It is
I feel
tough.
like if it were me, I would, man, I feel like I'd stick to the rule because then you're gonna start getting in a weird situation though. It's hard though because then the whole what is their sexual orientation
Mm-hmm.
kind of starts coming in because like you said that's the main point,
Yeah,
right? Is you don't want them hooking up and things like
exactly.
when we were younger and this wasn't necessarily a topic. That's the idea. We don't want to hook up, get pregnant, those type of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So nowadays though, where sexuality is so different and so fluid, it's
Mm-hmm.
like where do I draw the line?
Yeah, I genuinely don't
So
know.
that's tough.
Yeah.
That's
So I
hard.
need some advice. I
No one
can't.
alone.
This is when it's so hard to not have a spouse that you can like talk through things with because I have to
Yeah.
trust myself and what if I make the wrong decision? And especially
Yeah.
like her dad doesn't know like things, and so I can't talk. I mean, I wouldn't talk to him about anything
Absolutely
anyway, but
can. Yeah.
yeah, I just don't know.
That's
So
tough.
if you have
That's the
advice,
one
you tell
aspect that
me.
makes it tough,
Yeah,
you know? Because as I
yeah.
started going down and thinking it through, I'm like, I would stick to the rule and say, no, like, you
Mm-hmm.
can't, right? A boy is a boy, and if they're identifying as a boy, then that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing. That's the rule. But then, like you said, the sexual orientation comes
Yeah,
into play because it's like, I'm kind of, am I defeating
yeah.
my purpose? Depending on my child's sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
they could be the same thing, hooking up with someone of the same sex.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what she said to me. She looked at me, she like, well, what if they're bi? Like, it's a good question. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I'd probably
So,
at the end of the day just quickly thinking about it, not delving and really doing introspection, but I feel like still I'd probably stick to it if it were me for the
mhm.
fact of, hey, if you're making out with someone of the same sex, at least you can't get pregnant. Like
Yeah.
that's more the biggest thing, right?
Mhm.
Was always the pregnancy scare. Yeah, you don't want them hooking
Yep.
up. That was kind of even bigger,
I
you
agree.
know?
That is bigger. And I feel like if I allow it with them, I feel like honestly that's disrespectful. That's me not viewing them as a boy. And if they are
Yeah,
transgender, they are a boy. They want to be viewed as a boy. I need to respect that. And if I respect that, the rule is that she cannot hang out with boys.
right.
So even though, yeah, she can't get pregnant, I'm not going to bend rules all over the place. I'm not like that's just it's just I think that's just how it's gonna have to be. She can't hang out.
That's how I feel.
But I
That's what
said if
I'm
there's
waiting for.
groups, like just have a group of people get together. I don't care if there's groups,
Yeah,
just not
that's different. Hmm.
individually.
I like it. I think you're on
Yeah.
the right track, girl. Ain't no way you'll know at the other side when you get there if
Yeah.
you made the right choice. But
This parenting thing is rough sometimes, but here we are.
yes, it sounds right as we talked
Yeah,
about it. I feel
I think
like
so.
that's what
You
I
made
would
me feel
do.
validated. I feel better. I'm
That's
just,
the rule. We're
yep.
not changing.
That's fine. I just felt bad when her friend was like, "Well, that's not fair," but
Oh,
I
still
mean,
though. But you got
it
to
is
take that.
fair.
Like you take the good with the bad when you're
Yep.
identifying, as a
Yes.
different whatever. Okay,
Yes.
well, that's what comes with being a boy.
Yeah. It's
You
true.
got to take that on if that's the life that you
Yeah.
want. And there's other things they'll have to face like that,
Hmm.
right? That's going to come with being a male,
Yeah.
you know?
And maybe if anybody watches this who is transgender, maybe you will have a different perspective. But I feel like that's respecting him and what he's chosen for his life. Whereas I feel like if I
Mhm.
don't follow it, it's not respecting that.
Yeah.
So I can't just be like, well, really, it's a girl. That's disrespectful.
Right. So it's
So
okay. So I'll make an exception. No,
yeah.
no. Yeah. Because, like you said, then you're bending rules all over the place and all these gray areas. No.
Hmm.
We
Exactly.
ain't doing all the gray, just black and white. Nope.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Love it.
Solved. I don't know. We had that conversation today on the way home, and I was just like, girl, I don't know. I'm stressed about this.
I know, that's
Yeah,
right. What
that's
else?
rough.
Have we covered all the
I think we
things?
have. I think that's good.
All right. Oh man, so we've had a really good, we honestly could talk about parenting from all different aspects forever. We would love to hear some of your parenting stories.
Yeah.
Chime in, give us a shout out on our socials and let us know some of your favorite memories or hardest things, whatever it is that's on your
Yeah.
mind. It's been a fun topic. We didn't get to all the things. We may have to do parenting again one day. There's a lot to talk about, from different aspects, but we had a blast. Hope you had
Yeah.
fun with us, laughing with us. We hope you also were touched and got some solid advice, from the things that we shared. Remember, treat your kids like humans. If nothing else, that's one of the biggest things that I'm definitely going to keep at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
Next week, we have a surprise topic. So stay tuned. It's going to be really, really fun. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Nikki, and that's Brittany Lee. We'll see you soon.
Bye.